Biden recently signed the Inflation Reduction Act, and along with sections dedicated to fighting climate change, reducing healthcare costs, and increasing taxes on corporations, there are some add-ons to the EV tax credit. Namely, that it will be impossible to get the full $7,500. Hello people of the internet, I'm Nico, and today I'll be telling you about what changes have been made to the EV tax credit, who qualifies, and if the act will succeed at what it was made to do. First and foremost, the changes made, and the biggest is that the $7,500 EV tax credit has been extended for another 10 years, until December of 2032, and the previous cap of 200,000 vehicles has been removed, so manufacturers are now free to make as many EVs as they like, and they can still qualify for the tax credit. More changes include that the EV tax credit now applies to any clean vehicle, meaning that hydrogen fuel cell cars like the Toyota Mirai or plug-in hybrids with a 4 to 7 kilowatt-hour capacity battery can qualify. Also, when you go to buy an EV, starting in 2024, you can opt to subtract the tax credit from the vehicle price, rather than waiting for tax time to come around. However, there are some catches, namely that income may disqualify you from getting the tax credit. If you are single making over $150,000 gross income, then you will not qualify. If you're married filing together, then the limit is $300,000, and if you file as head of household, then the limit is $225,000. Here's where it starts to get complicated. The car you buy will not qualify at all if it is too expensive. For sedans, the limit is set at $55,000, and for larger vehicles like SUVs, trucks, and vans, the limit is raised to $80,000. So cars like the Tesla Model S and Model X, the Lucid Air, Hummer EV, BMW iX, and the top spec Ford Lightning all won't qualify for the tax credit. Also, used cars can get a partial tax credit as long as they don't exceed $25,000, but they also don't have to comply with the extreme assembly requirements that newly built EVs will have to comply with. Starting in 2023, the tax credit will only go for clean cars that are assembled in North America. So companies like Chevrolet and Tesla are mostly in the green with little more to do, but companies that import their EVs will have a lot of work ahead of them. Furthermore, a similar requirement is made of the minerals and key components in the batteries that they must also be sourced in America in order to qualify for the tax credit. And while I say North America, just as most of the websites I found state, if you look at the actual Inflation Reduction Act document, it says the word domestic, so that should mean built in the United States specifically, not just North America. If I'm wrong, then please tell me in the comments, but I think I'm right in saying that EVs and their components must be made in the United States to qualify. So now the question is why? Let's start from the top and work our way down. Obviously, extending the tax credit for another 10 years provides a big incentive to purchase an EV. If you got the full $7,500 off on a Nissan Leaf, for example, you would only pay $20,300. Now, you likely won't get the full tax credit, but I'll get to that later in the video. Next, while it is true that less people will qualify for the tax credit now that there is a salary limit, the flip side of it is that it kind of levels the playing field for people with a smaller income. People with a higher income can afford an EV without the tax break, and prioritizing those with a lower income I think is a welcome change. It's a case of equity rather than equality. Those are the good things, but why make car manufacturers go through so much trouble to move so much of the production process to America just to make their cars eligible for the tax credit? What are the benefits to this, and is it even worth the cost? Starting simple, disregarding the logistical nightmare of bringing a massive part of the production process to the US, the more work there is to do in the country, the more jobs there are to get the work done. And as complex and intensive as the production of battery packs is, that is a lot of jobs coming to the US. But bringing more good jobs to America is just half the story. To see the other half, we've got to go visit the country that Trump loves talking about the most: China. So what about China? What do they have to do with producing EVs? Well, quite a lot actually. They may not have the richest sources of minerals needed for battery production, those are actually in the Congo, Australia, and Chile, but China made itself the central hub for processing those minerals. In fact, China controls roughly 75% of the market for those minerals. And if you know anything about the oil crisis of 1973, you will know that total reliance on another country can be catastrophic if political issues arise. So while bringing new jobs to America is part of the reason, building up our own supply chain is mostly to decrease our reliance on other countries, specifically China. Now don't get me wrong, I am all for independence. This is America after all, of course independence is great, but this is a gargantuan task ahead of us. And while it would be nice for the Inflation Reduction Act to work as it's intended, there are still some damages to be reckoned with. Take Rivian for example. They have a truck and an SUV, both are on the cusp of the $80,000 limit. Now if you add some options to the cars, then suddenly they become too expensive, they don't qualify for the tax credit, and that will make a lot of potential customers think twice before buying. And that goes for any EV that's anywhere near the price limit. Then when it comes to the manufacturing requirements, the Nissan Leaf and Volkswagen ID4 will be fine as they're being made in the US, but cars like the Mustang Mach-E and Chevrolet Blazer EV, which are built in Mexico, will not qualify for the tax credit. And as these are in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, a very competitive range for EVs, they will likely lose a big chunk of customers. Furthermore, any EV startups outside of the US, like Lightyear, probably won't enter the market anymore, seeing that they can no longer qualify for the tax credit unless they move their whole production to the US. So that means less competitive companies in the market to force innovation. Here's the worst of it all. According to the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, there is no EV on the market today that will qualify for the full tax credit once all the battery manufacturing requirements take effect in 2023. That's not to say you won't get any tax credit, you'll still receive some money, but once those battery requirements hit, the full $7,500 will be impossible to get for any EV on the market today. And on a side note, if you look at the US Department of Energy's website, you can find a list of various EVs, some of which have reached the max 200,000 vehicle limit that shouldn't exist anymore. I hope that is just an oversight, but that should not be there. Minor details like that aside, I do like what the Inflation Reduction Act aims to do in terms of incentivizing the manufacturing and purchasing of EVs in America. However, I worry that it will do more harm than good, especially for foreign competitors who provide another option and innovation in the market space. Are you more willing to buy an EV with the changes made, or are you put off by the revised tax credit requirements? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, people of the internet, peace out.